Back when I was in high school, I remember sitting in one of my classes. I think it was physics or maths, and I was looking at the board. I could see the lips of my teacher moving. I could see that she was writing things on the board, and I could see other students actively engaged in that discussion. But I could absorb absolutely nothing from that class no matter how hard I tried. Eventually, I just started thinking that perhaps I'm just stupid or perhaps I'm just lazy and I need to try harder to focus. But despite all of this self-degradation, my focus never really got better. I ended up failing 3 subjects in high school that year. This lack of focus didn't just affect my academic life. It impacted the day-to-day activities that I did. I remember that as a teenager, I was supposed to go to the bank with my passport. There was some paperwork that needed to be done, and what ended up happening was that I left my passport at the bank. And it's only a day later that they called me to remind me that I actually left my passport there. I was just so lost all the time, almost like my brain was a balloon floating through the wind. But lucky for me, that isn't who I am anymore. I am now someone who does 4 to 5 hours of deep focused work in a day. I feel really present now when I'm talking to other people. I read things just once and I'm able to comprehend it. And it is thanks to developing this focus that I've been able to work as a software engineer at Fortune 500 companies and be one of the best performing students in my bachelor's and my master's program. In this video, I'm going to share with you the exact protocols that I followed to get my focus back. Some of the advice that I'm going to give you is going to be quite unconventional and it is going to require you to make some serious lifestyle changes. But trust me, if it gets your focus back, then it is worth it. So let's get right into it. The single biggest mistake that I was making as a young adult, which was wrecking my attention span, was the fact that I did not really take my diet seriously. My source of calories was composed of chocolates, chips, soda, fast food. And back then my perspective on food was that the worst thing that fast food could do was make me fat and probably not look all that aesthetically pleasing. But obviously I was wrong. If you are the type of person that eats like a 13-year-old boy, then guess what? You are constantly going to have brain fog. You are going to have trouble focusing on things and you're always going to feel like you're easily distracted. The way that I found out that it was my diet causing me to lose focus was that one day I decided to go on a 23-hour fast, meaning I had no food at all the way up to dinner. And to my surprise, I started feeling a lot more focused that day. For once, I felt like I was the one controlling my mind and my thoughts and not the other way around. You could try conducting such an experiment for yourself. Like try to study and focus when you're in a fasted state, maybe like 14-15 hours deep into a fast. Then compare it to focusing when you're completely fed. And if your diet is the issue, then you're going to notice a clear difference in your attention span. Once I identified that, okay, perhaps it is my poor diet that is the issue here. What I did was I swapped out all the processed food and replaced it with whole, natural, single ingredient food. These were things like honey, meat, fish, eggs, vegetables, fruits. Nothing fancy, just things that you would consider as natural and healthy. Within 3 days of making this dietary swap, I could feel a lot more present in life. This to me was such a revelation, like, oh, this is how I'm actually supposed to be feeling. And if I only felt this way when I was in high school, I would have probably aced all my exams. So these days, after trying and testing multiple different diets, such as carnivore, keto, low carb, what I now do is that the first few hours each morning, I am in a fasted state. I don't eat anything. This is the state where I'm very focused and I get a lot of work in. Because now my body is not too busy with digesting the food. It can dedicate all that energy to simply focusing on the task. Then for my late breakfast and my lunch, I would have a meal that is rich in protein and fats, but does not have a lot of carbs in them. Because I've noticed when I eat carbs early on in the day, I tend to get a bit sleepy and my focus levels drop. I only have carbs later in the evening with my dinner, so that they actually make me sleepy when it's time to fall asleep. The second reason why I did not have a good attention span was because my environment was chaotic. I would have notifications from apps popping every 15 minutes. I would try to study in crowded rooms where people are just talking loudly. My work desk was filled with piles and piles of irrelevant notes, and my room was always untidy and disorganized. The reason why a distraction-free environment is so important is because there is a serious mental cost associated with task switching. Many people have this false belief that humans are just capable of multitasking, that hey, I can text my friend, I can watch Netflix in the background, and I can get high quality work done on this assignment. But that is not how the brain works. What you are actually doing is something called task switching. You're texting your friend first. This requires you to activate all the brain regions required to form that text and read their text. Then you are switching the task and watching a Netflix show. So now you are required to firstly switch off all the circuits of the brain required for texting and then activate the circuits that are now required for you to understand what is happening in the show that you're watching. And these circuits do not switch on or switch off instantly. It takes several minutes to disable one or to activate one. Here's what I do these days. I have my desk on which I have my laptop, and this is my place of focus. I first make sure that this desk is clean and there is no unnecessary attention-grabbing objects on it. I now wake up early in the morning at around 4 a.m. and get on my desk and start focusing on something. This time works the best for me because everyone in my house is asleep. My neighbor is not going to knock at the door. There are not going to be any emergencies or meetings that I have to attend. This is by far the most distraction-free part of my day, and I make the most of it. Secondly, here is another beautiful thing about mornings. Ryan Doris, who's a researcher on flow state, focus, and productivity, has repeatedly said that the kind of brain activity that you have each morning is the best state to be in when you perform deep, focused work. Also, each morning your brain is fresh. There is no cognitive load or stress piling on. Additionally, what I do is that for the first 4 to 5 hours of the day when I'm actually doing my deep, focused, distraction-free work, I put my phone on flight mode. Some of you are going to resist this idea, perhaps because you think there is going to be an emergency that requires your immediate attention. But I have been doing this thing for the last 4 years, and never have I faced a world-destroying emergency that couldn't wait a couple of hours. But the upside of putting your phone on flight mode is that your focus levels go through the roof when your phone is not being bombarded with calls and notifications. Here's a bit of a pro tip. If you can afford it, I would highly recommend that you invest in noise-cancelling headphones because they have been a game changer for me. If my neighbors are being noisy or my AC is making weird sound, I am no longer bothered by these noises. If you cannot afford noise-cancelling headphones, an alternative could be using earplugs. They too are quite effective. But nonetheless, not having these two things is not going to be a deal breaker for your focus, but they do give you that extra 10% of focus. In the 21st century, most things around you are designed to make you mentally weak and keep you hooked to instant pleasure. From things like porn, doom scrolling, video games, all the way to actual consumable things like weed, cigarettes, alcohol. And it's only going to get worse as technology advances and figures out new and powerful ways to stimulate the human mind. If you're someone who's trapped in this mess, you're addicted to things, you don't really know how to break free from them, you've been relapsing over and over again, then I have some news for you. I have designed a program that allows you to win back control over yourself and break free from the chains of these bad habits. This program has been developed using my own personal experience of being hooked to these bad behaviors for over 20 years of my life and also having helped dozens of men overcome these addictions. So check out the link in the description to find out more about it. When you are a young adult, sleep is the last thing that crosses your mind because being awake is just so damn stimulating. You have shows on Netflix that you could be watching, you have that group chat with the boys that is just exciting, your friends are making plans of going out for the night to this fancy place. There are infinitely many options of stimulating things that you could be doing instead of sleeping. And I did do those things. Because of that, I was sleeping at random times, sometimes at 10 p.m., sometimes at 2 a.m. And I'm not exaggerating, when you go to bed at random times, then you're going to feel like shit the next day. You're going to feel like you almost have this jet lag-like feeling when you wake up. You're going to feel like procrastinating. You can't really get yourself to focus on things. Try this out right now. Go to ChatGPT and give it this prompt. What are the core recovery tasks related to mind, brain, hormones that happen during sleep? What you're going to see is a long list of things. A few of the things that caught my attention was that sleep helps you remove the toxic waste that builds up in your brain during the day. When you sleep at random times, this waste is not effectively removed. So you're still waking up with those same toxins in your head. Additionally, sleep helps you restore balance in dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, acetylcholine, and GABA. These are the core chemicals behind focus, motivation, and mood. If you do not have a sleep schedule, your neurochemical balance is always disturbed, and this is why you wake up without any motivation or the ability to focus. Here is what I do these days. You've heard most people talk about their morning routines for productivity. I instead set up a night routine, and in my opinion, you could have the most sophisticated looking morning routine ever designed. But if your night routine is messed up, you are still going to feel messed up each morning. As part of my night routine, the first thing that I do is decide a time that I would be going to sleep. And I actually have this time noted down on my routine. This time marks the end of my day. At this time, I should be in bed with my eyes closed. At the moment, I go to bed at around 8:30 p.m. And yes, I know it's early. The next thing that I do is that 1.5 hours before my bedtime, I dim all the lights in my room and I avoid bright, stimulating lights. This is to send a message to your brain that, hey buddy, it's nighttime, secrete melatonin, which is a hormone that helps induce sleep. I also make sure that I get plenty of sunlight during the day so my biological clock is well adjusted. And when it is later in the day, I naturally feel sleepy. Lastly, I have my dinner at least 90 minutes before my bedtime. This way, your sleep is actually being utilized for recovery and not just digesting a large meal. Now, some of you might see my nighttime routine and be like, what the hell, bro? This is too much. You sleep too early. Nights are meant to socialize, live a little, blah, 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 blah. All I can say is that I have been following this night routine for the last 4 years, and I wake up without an alarm, feeling like I could just bench press a rhino, wake up super excited for the day, full of energy, ready to focus and get the work done. I would much rather feel this way each morning than have a bit of extra fun at night and compromise my focus the next day. Here's the thing, your ability to focus is greatly disturbed when you have a highly stimulating thing in your life. So if you truly want to maximize your focus, you need to get rid of such things. But the brutal truth is breaking free from highly stimulating behaviors is easier said than done. You would need a proper system in your life for this. So make sure that you watch this video to learn more about such a system.